Welcome to this video. In this video, we will build the hardware for our self-driving car. We will build our first module. In our first module, we will set up an environment for Arduino Uno. Now without wasting our time, so let us dive into the hardware build. Now in the step number 1, take your DC gear motors and solder a wire to it. Try to use the copper wire instead of any other aluminum wires. I have soldered all my DC gear motors, so this is the topology in which we will connect our circuit. Now we know our H-bridge can only handle 2 motors at a time. So what we will do here, we will connect both of these motors in parallel, and in the same way we will connect both of other side of motors also in parallel. Then we will hook up this side of motors to here and other side of motors to the other side of our H-bridge. Now let us build our chassis. First separate all the screws and spacers that are included in this chassis. I will show the orientation of all the motors so that it will be easy for you to assemble this chassis if you are assembling this chassis for the first time. Now use these transparent brackets and corresponding screws to mount our motor. You can also follow the manual included in this chassis to build it faster. Now let me quickly assemble the first motor and I will get back to you. Our first motor is perfectly mounted, and in the same way we will assemble all of our motors. Alright, we have built this basic building block of this chassis. Now here is the important thing. We will solder these two motors are in parallel and these two motors are in parallel. Make sure you cross couple the wires because both of these motors are mounted in opposite direction. If this first motor runs in clockwise direction, then we also have to make sure the second motor also run in clockwise direction of the same side. So that's why we cross coupled these wires on both sides here. Now let us move to step number 2. Now we will mount our H-bridge and power bank to this chassis here. First I will take my H-bridge and I will mount this H-bridge on this chassis. Then I will hook up these wires into the ports of H-bridge. Next I will mount my power bank close to this H-bridge. In this way we can easily connect my power bank to H-bridge here. Now take your double-sided tape and mount these components at their respective position. Alright, so this stage is completed. Next I need a USB connector to power my H-bridge from the power bank. So I will use this USB cable. So the first pin of the 3-pin port is 5V and the second pin is ground. And in the same way the red wire is 5V and this black wire of this connector is the ground pin. Now connect the wire of this USB connector to the respective position at this port here. As soon as you connect the USB connector to the power bank, the LEDs start glowing. That means the circuit is working. Now I can turn this off. Let's move to the step number 3. Next I will use these spacers to connect this plate to this chassis here. Next I will take another USB cable to power my rest of the circuits. Now we can see in our L298H bridge, we have a 6-pin digital header here. It has 6 digital pins. So this is the input port for this L298H bridge. So we will hook up this connector with the Arduino Uno digital pins. Now to make a connection, take any 6-pin male to female jumper wires. Now on the first side we have a 6 female pins, and on the other side we have 6 male pins. Now connect the female side of the jumper wires to the port available in this L298H bridge. Now to complete our build, take your plastic plate and mount it on this chassis here. Use the rest of your screws and try to complete this build. We have two types of wires. From these pins we will control our motors, and from these wires we will provide the power supply to our rest of our components. Now at the last, mount your Arduino Uno with the double-sided tape on this chassis. Let's move to step number 4. Now to power up our components, I have designed a small circuit here. Here on this red wire I will connect my 5 volt, and on this black wire I will connect my 0 volt from my power bank. I also mounted these additional 4 headers, and these 4 headers are connected to our 5 volt and ground. I will use these headers to power up my rest of the peripherals that I will use in my circuit. Now to power up my Raspberry Pi, so I have soldered this micro USB cable to this circuit also. Now if we take a look at this electrolytic capacitor, I soldered this 1000 microfarad and 25 volt capacitor because sometime when motor draws large amount of current, then our Raspberry Pi start rebooting again and again. So to overcome this potential problem, I used this electrolytic capacitor to store some charge for our Raspberry Pi. Now let me mount this circuit on the chassis, and I will connect the input wires to our power bank. Now on the free space of our custom build PCB, I will create a circuit for our LED dynamic turn indicator in the future. I will make the circuit here. Alright, I made a temporary connection here just for testing. Now I will give power to my Arduino here. Either you can give a power to this Arduino Uno with the 12 volt DC jack here, but I will use these V input and ground pins. I have this male to female connector here. I will hook up this connector to the Arduino Uno and other side to the custom build PCB here. Now from this connection, the blue wire is our 5 volt and the middle purple wire is the ground wire. Now let's power up this circuit. Seems perfect, all the LEDs are glowing. So we can see the LED on H bridge, our custom build PCB, and on this Arduino Uno also. Now let me turn off this circuit. Now I will deal with this connector. So this side is for left side motors and this connector is for right side motors. And this is the enable for our left side motor, and these two wires describe the orientation of our motors. Now in the same way, this connector, the red wire, is the enable pin for our right side motors, and these two wires describe the orientation of right side motor, which I will connect to the Arduino Uno. Now let me plug these connector to the Arduino Uno pins here. So make sure your yellow wire for enable pin and red wire for the enable pin goes to the PWM pins of Arduino Uno. Now we can see it clearly. So the yellow wire is enable pin and this pin is connected to the PWM pin of this Arduino Uno. Now in the same way, red is also enable pin and this is also connected to PWM pin of Arduino Uno. Now at the last, mount all the tires to complete this build. Alright, so our hardware is ready for our next step.